For too long we have lived inside an invisible cage, a cage built with the truths of an obsolete science which told us we were simple biological machines, governed by the genes we inherited and condemned to repeat the patterns of our past. We were taught to believe that our brain was immutably programmed, that our personality was fixed, and that reality was a solid, objective place to which we could only react. But in recent decades, a new science has emerged, a science that dares to explore the frontier where mind meets matter. Neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics have opened a door to a new and radical understanding of what it means to be human. And the truth they have revealed is this: you are not programmed to be who you are. You are programmed to be who you choose to be. This audiobook is not a philosophy. It is a scientific manual for transformation. It is a practical guide that will take you step by step, from understanding the architecture of your current self to the deliberate creation of your future self. You will learn to break the habit of being yourself. You will discover that your mind can be rewired, that your genes can be instructed, and that your body can be conditioned for a new reality before that reality manifests. We will travel together beyond the world of the senses, to the quantum field of all possibilities, and you will learn to use the most powerful tool you possess, your own consciousness, to select and collapse the reality you desire. This is not a journey of hope. It is a journey of power. The power to go from being a product of your past to becoming the architect of your future. The frontier of the possible is waiting for you. Chapter 1. The habit of being yourself. You have crossed the frontier. You have accepted the astonishing possibility that you can rewrite your biology and create a new reality. But before you can build a new future, we must first understand with relentless clarity why your present looks so much like your past. Why, despite your best intentions, do you often find yourself repeating the same patterns? Why do the same doubts, frustrations, and limitations seem to follow you no matter how hard you try to change? The answer is that you are not fighting an external force. You are fighting a habit, the most powerful and most invisible habit of all, the habit of being yourself. Personality and reality. The feedback loop. Modern neuroscience and mystical wisdom have reached the same conclusion. Your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is simple. It's how you think, how you act, and how you feel. These three things, thought, action, and feeling, create a feedback loop that defines your existence. It works like this. You have a thought. This thought, whether conscious or unconscious, produces a chemical reaction in your brain. That brain chemistry generates a feeling in your body. If you have a thought of insecurity, your body produces the chemistry of insecurity. That feeling, in turn, influences your next thoughts. If you feel insecure, you will tend to have more thoughts of insecurity to justify that feeling. This constant cycle of think and feel and think, repeated over and over, creates a state of being. And a state of being that has been practiced for days, months, and years becomes a temperament, then a character trait, and finally your personality. Most of us have been running the same think-feel loop for so long that it has become a subconscious program. And since your personality creates your personal reality, as long as you remain the same personality, your life will inevitably remain the same. To change your life, you must literally stop being you. You must break the habit of being yourself. And to break it, we must dissect the machine. The neuroscience of the habitual self, your brain, is a masterpiece of adaptation. Its primary function is to learn from experience and create automatic programs to navigate the world efficiently. This process is governed by the fundamental law of neuroplasticity, often summarized as Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you have a thought, an emotion, or perform an action, a specific set of neurons activates in your brain, creating a circuit, a neural network. If you have that experience only once, the connection is weak and temporary. But if you repeat that same thought, that same emotion, or that same action over and over again, you are commanding that same circuit to fire repeatedly. With each repetition, the connection between those neurons becomes stronger, more robust, and more efficient. The brain, in its infinite intelligence, begins to coat that neural pathway with myelin, an insulating sheath that allows the signal to travel faster and faster. What is a habit? A habit is a neural network that you have fired and wired so many times that it has become the default path, the superhighway of your brain. And what is your personality? Your personality is simply the sum of your most practiced habits. It is a collection of strongly myelinated neural networks that now run as an automatic program. That's why change is so difficult. You are not fighting a bad attitude. You are fighting the physical architecture of your own brain, which has been molded by your past. Your brain is, in essence, a living archive of everything you have been. The body is the subconscious mind, the addiction to emotions, but the story doesn't end in the brain. Here we come to one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's deepest discoveries. The body is the subconscious mind. When your brain releases the neurochemicals that correspond to a thought, your body reacts. It feels the emotion. Anger, fear, guilt, joy are not abstract concepts. They are physiological experiences. They are a cocktail of peptides and hormones that floods your bloodstream. Your billions of cells have receptors on their surface like small docking stations waiting for these molecules. And here's the key. Your cells get used to receiving the same chemical cocktail day after day. If you have spent the last 20 years of your life in a state of chronic worry, your cells have literally become addicted to the chemistry of worry. They have developed more receptors for those specific stress molecules and have reduced the receptors for molecules of joy or peace. Your body has memorized that emotional state. It has become its baseline state, its normalcy. And this is where the real battle for change begins. Imagine you wake up one day and consciously decide, today I am not going to worry. Today I am going to be happy. You start having positive thoughts. But your body, which has been expecting its morning dose of cortisol, notices its absence. And your cells, like tiny addicts, begin to send a panic signal back to the brain. Through the nervous system, they shout, "What's going on up there?" This doesn't feel normal. We need our familiar chemistry. Produce a thought of worry right now. It is at that moment that the little voice in your head, which we often believe is our own, begins its sabotage. What's the point of being happy? Don't you remember the bill you have to pay? What if your boss gets angry with you? That voice is not you, it is your body talking. It is your subconscious mind, your past emotion-addicted self, trying to get your conscious brain to produce the thought that will generate the chemical drug it's accustomed to. Most of us at this point give in. We have the thought of worry, the body receives its dose of cortisol, the addiction is satisfied, and we return to our familiar state. The habit of being ourselves has won again. The first act of liberation, therefore, is not to try to change your thoughts. It is to stop obeying your body. This is the great divorce. It is the moment when you, as consciousness, declare your independence from the subconscious program that your body has memorized. It is the act of saying, I am not my emotions. I'm not my compulsions. I am the consciousness that is aware of these sensations. This is the most difficult work, because it goes against years of conditioning. The initiate in this art understands that he must go through a period of emotional withdrawal. When his body, addicted to anger, sends him the signal to get angry about a small setback, the initiate does not obey. He sits in the fire of the sensation. He feels the energy of anger in his body, but he refuses to act on it. He refuses to generate the thought that justifies it. He simply observes it, like a scientist looking at a chemical reaction in a test tube. He knows it is not him, it is the program of the past running. And by refusing to react, by refusing to produce the chemistry, he is leaving the addict without his drug. When his body, addicted to self-pity, asks him to lament a failure, the initiate does not obey. He feels the familiar heaviness of sadness, but instead of wallowing in it, he observes it with a compassionate distance. This process is uncomfortable. It is withdrawal. The body will scream. The voice in the head will say, "Why aren't you worrying? You should be worrying. This is important." But the initiate knows that this voice is not one of wisdom. It is the voice of the addict asking for his dose. By persisting in this practice of observation without reaction, you are literally reconditioning your body to a new mind. You are teaching it, on a cellular level, that it is no longer in charge. That sovereign consciousness has returned to the throne, the silence of the mind, becoming bigger than your thoughts. Once you have stopped being a servant to your body, you must confront the architect of the prison, your own mind. Your brain is a magnificent machine, but it is a machine of habits. It is designed to fire the same circuits over and over again, to be efficient. The secret to becoming bigger than your mind is the art of metacognition, which simply means thinking about your own thoughts, or more precisely, being aware of your own thoughts. Most of us are completely fused with our inner dialogue. We believe that we are the voice in our head. If the voice says, "I am not enough," we accept that statement as an absolute truth. The initiate does not try to stop his thoughts. He knows that is impossible. Instead, he becomes the observer of his thoughts. The practice is that of meditation and mindfulness. The master does not meditate to relax, although that may happen. He meditates to de-identify. He sits in silence. He closes his eyes, and he observes the parade of his automatic thoughts, as if they were cars passing on a highway. There goes the thought of, "I'm not enough." Interesting. It's the insecurity car. There goes the thought of, "This is too difficult." It's the doubt car. And there goes the thought about what I have to buy at the supermarket. He does not get in the cars. He does not judge them. He does not try to change their direction. He simply sits on the side of the road and watches them pass. With each thought he observes without reacting, he is withdrawing its power. He is unwiring the old circuits. He is proving to himself over and over that he is not the voice in his head, but the silent consciousness that listens to it. This is the act of breaking the habit of being yourself. It is a divorce from your conditioned emotional body and a de-identification from your programmed mind. It is a process of emptying. You are creating a space. You are creating a fertile void. The habit of being yourself is a prison built with the bricks of your past thoughts and the cement of your memorized emotions. But it is not a prison of stone. It is a prison of consciousness. By learning to be bigger than your body and bigger than your mind, you have found the key. You have discovered that the prisoner and the jailer are one and the same, and that you, consciousness, have the power to open the door and walk out. Chapter 2. The predictive brain. We must now know the nature of this guardian, which is none other than the architecture of your own brain. We must understand the secret of the predictive brain, the great deception of the senses. Reality as a controlled hallucination. Let's start by dismantling the biggest illusion we have about ourselves, the belief that our brain is a passive organ that receives information from the outside world through our senses. We believe we see the world as it is, that we hear sounds as they are. We believe we are a receiver of reality. Cutting-edge neuroscience has revealed a much stranger and much more powerful truth. Our brain does not see reality. It creates it. What we experience as reality is not a live broadcast from the outside world. It is, in the words of neuroscientist Anil Seth, a controlled hallucination. It is the best guess our brain can make about what is out there. Based on a single crucial set of data, our past experience, the amount of sensory information that enters our brain every second is incredibly small compared to the immense amount of information that the brain already possesses and uses to build our perception. We are not seeing the world. We are seeing our internal model of the world, and we only use the senses to correct small errors in that model. The architecture of prediction, how the past governs the present. To understand how this works, we must return to the idea of the brain as an archive of the past. As we saw in the previous chapter, every experience we have had, every thought we have repeated, has created and strengthened neural networks. Your brain is literally a living map of your past. The predictive brain uses this map to function as efficiently as possible. Instead of spending an immense amount of energy processing every one of the billions of bits of information that reach us every second, it does something much smarter. It predicts. The internal model. Your brain has built a complete model of your known reality. It knows what coffee tastes like, what your chair feels like, what your partner's voice sounds like. Constant prediction. Every millisecond, your brain is sending predictions from its higher areas to its sensory areas. It does not ask, "What's out there?" It declares, "Out there is a cup of coffee, and I expect it to feel hot and taste bitter." The prediction error. The information that comes from your senses, sight. Touch, taste is not used to build reality from scratch. It is used only to check if the brain's prediction was correct. If the sensory information matches the prediction, everything stays the same. If it doesn't, if the coffee tastes sweet instead of bitter, a prediction error signal is generated. This prediction error signal is crucial. When it is generated, the brain has two options: update the model, It can say, my prediction was wrong. I must update my model of reality to include the possibility that coffee is sometimes sweet. This is the process of learning. It is energetically expensive. It requires creating new neural connections. Ignore or reinterpret the data. This is the easiest option, and the one the brain, in its quest for efficiency, prefers. It can say, this anomaly is not important. I will ignore it. Or it can reinterpret the data to fit the old model. It's not that the coffee is sweet. It's that my tongue is weird today. The biological resistance to the unknown here is where we discover the neurological root of why change is so incredibly difficult. The unknown, by definition, is a massive prediction error. When you try to create a new reality, a future of abundance when your past has been one of scarcity, you are presenting your brain with a scenario for which it has no map. And the brain's response to a large-scale prediction error is the same as our ancestors to an unknown noise in the dark of night: fear. The unknown for your predictive brain is equal to danger. The moment you step out of familiar reality and into the territory of the unknown, your brain activates the alarm system. The amygdala lights up. The sympathetic nervous system is activated, and it floods you with stress hormones. The body goes into fight or flight mode. This is not a psychological reaction. It is a biological reaction. It is your brain, in its brilliant but outdated attempt to keep you safe in the known territory of your past, actively sabotaging your attempts to create a new future. It is the guardian of the prison of the habit of being yourself. The first practice, mental rehearsal, installing the new hardware. The first protocol is that of mental rehearsal. The neurohacker understands that to change his future, he must first install that future into the hardware of his brain. Science has shown without a doubt that the brain does not distinguish well between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. When you mentally rehearse an action, you are activating and wiring the same neural networks that would activate if you were performing the action physically. Experiments with pianists have shown that those who simply imagined playing a musical piece developed neural connections in their motor cortex almost as strong as those who practiced it physically. Studies with weightlifters have shown that the simple act of visualizing the lift can produce real increases in muscle strength. Mental rehearsal is the act of deliberate rewiring. The initiate in his meditation does not just visualize. He closes his eyes and, with intense clarity, rehearses his future. He rehearses the conversation he wants to have, feeling the words in his mouth, seeing the reaction on the other's face. He rehearses the presentation he is going to give, seeing it unfold with perfect fluidity and confidence. He rehearses the sensation of his body already healed, moving with an ease and grace he had forgotten. With each of these rehearsals, he is installing the neurological hardware of his new self. He is creating a new map in his brain, and in doing so, he is giving his predictive brain a new past from which to predict the future. He is literally building the brain of the future he wishes to experience. The second practice, the emotional signature, adding the feeling software. The master knows that a mental rehearsal without emotion is a blueprint without energy. It is hardware without software. For the brain to accept the new prediction as real, and not as a mere fantasy, it must be sealed with the signature of an elevated emotion. This is where heart coherence comes into play. The practice is to combine mental rehearsal with a powerful and coherent feeling. During his rehearsal, the initiate does not just see his success, he feels it. He generates in his heart the feeling of gratitude, of appreciation, of the fullness of his desire already fulfilled. This combination, a clear mind and a coherent heart, is the most powerful signal he can send to his system. He is telling his brain, this new prediction is not a fantasy. It is a real experience. Start accepting it as the new map. The elevated emotion is the catalyst that turns knowledge into experience, thought into belief. It is the software that gives life to the new hardware you have installed. The advanced practice, entering the quantum field. Finally, the master hacker understands that to install a new program in the fastest and deepest way, he must sometimes first completely disconnect from the old operating system. He practices the art of becoming no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. This is the portal to the quantum field. The initiate sits in meditation, And he begins a process of systematic disassociation. He becomes no one. He withdraws his attention from his identity, his name, his roles, parent, professional, etc. He lets go of the story of his past and the anxiety about his future. He becomes no thing. He withdraws his attention from his body. He feels consciousness beyond the limits of his skin. He becomes nowhere. He withdraws his attention from his physical surroundings, from the room he is in. He becomes no time. He withdraws his attention from the concept of time, anchoring himself in the eternal now. By doing this, he reaches a state of pure consciousness, a state where he is no longer a personality defined by the past, but a pure potentiality in the quantum field. And it is from this zero point, from this fertile void, that he introduces the vision of his new future. With no body addicted to the past and no mind that resists, the new signal can be imprinted on the field with perfect clarity and power. Chapter 3. Epigenetics. Your genes are not your destiny. For almost a century, we have lived under the shadow of an implacable dogma, genetic determinism. It is the belief that our DNA is a fixed, unchangeable blueprint, a lifelong sentence written in the language of biochemistry. If you inherited the gene for a certain disease, we were told, you were destined to suffer from it. If you did not inherit the gene for a particular talent, it was assumed you could never achieve it. This worldview, known as the central dogma of biology, posited that information flowed in a single direction, from DNA to RNA, and from RNA to the proteins that build our body. In this paradigm, we were passive victims of a genetic program we had not written and could not change. We were, in essence, the victims of our inheritance, but in recent decades, a silent revolution has been occurring at the forefront of biology, a revolution that is dethroning the old king of determinism and returning our sovereignty over our own bodies. This revolution has a name, epigenetics. To understand the power of this word, we must break it down. The prefix epi comes from Greek and means above, beyond. Epigenetics is literally the science of control above the genes. It is the discovery that we are not our code. We are the readers of our code. It is the revelation that our genes are not a fixed script, but a vast and complex library. And we, through our consciousness and our environment, are the librarians. The DNA library and the ghost librarian imagine that your DNA, your 46 chromosomes, are a library of an inconceivable magnitude. On its shelves are not just a few thousand books, but millions. Each book is a gene. This library contains the blueprints for every possibility of your human existence. There are books on how to build a healthy and vibrant body, and books on how to manifest every known disease. There are books on creative genius, on athletic resilience, on longevity. And there are also books on depression, anxiety, and fear. You have inherited the complete library. The old belief of genetic determinism was like saying that you could only read the few books that your parents left open on the table. Epigenetics reveals the truth. You have the keys to the entire library and the power to decide which books to read. Your epigenome is the librarian. It is a system of ghost switches, of chemical marks that adhere to your DNA and tell your body which books should be read and which should remain closed on the shelf. These switches do not change the text of the books, your genes, but they do change their expression. Science has identified two main mechanisms through which this librarian operates. The first mechanism is DNA methylation. Imagine that a sticky note can be placed on each book, gene, that says "do not read." That is, in essence, what a methyl group does. When it adheres to a gene, it silences it. It prevents the cellular machinery from reading it and transcribing it. You can have the book of a disease, but if a methylation mark keeps it closed, it is as if it did not exist. The second mechanism is histone modification. Imagine that the long threads of your DNA are wound on spools, like thread on a bobbin. These spools are proteins called histones. If the DNA thread is wound too tightly around the spool, the book is closed and unreadable. If the thread is loosened, the book opens and can be read by the cell. Epigenetic marks can order the histones to tighten or loosen, acting as a volume control for the expression of your genes. This changes everything. It means that your genetics are not a sentence, but a control panel. And every day, at every instant, you are pressing the switches on that panel. The signals from the field, who directs the librarian. If our epigenome is the librarian who decides which genes are read, the fundamental question is, who gives the orders to the librarian? The answer is the environment. Your epigenome is in a constant and dynamic dialogue with the world. Every signal it receives from your environment is an instruction on which books from the library it should take off the shelf. These signals are incredibly varied. Nutrition. The foods you eat are information. Certain nutrients, such as folate from leafy green vegetables, can add silencing marks to unwanted genes. Others, such as the polyphenols from berries, can activate longevity genes. The physical environment, the quality of the air you breathe, exposure to sunlight, contact with nature, movement, your physical activity. But the most powerful signal, the most constant, and the one that returns your sovereign power, is the signal that comes from your consciousness. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions are perhaps the most influential epigenetic programmers of all. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in this field, calls it the biology of belief. Your perception of the environment is more important than the environment itself. When you perceive your world as a stressful and dangerous place, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is a chemical signal that travels throughout your body and tells your epigenome, we are in survival mode. In response, the librarian takes the war books off the shelf. It activates genes for inflammation, for the fear response, and stores the peace books on the darkest shelves. The genes for regeneration, growth and long-term immunity. When on the contrary, you perceive your world from a state of love, gratitude, and security. Your brain releases the chemistry of coherence. These signals tell your epigenome the environment is safe and prosperous, and the librarian obeys. It stores the war books and brings the peace books to light. It activates the genes for DNA repair, longevity, the so-called sirtuin genes, and healing. You are not at the mercy of your genes. Your genes are at the mercy of your perception. You are the ghost in the machine. You are the consciousness that, through the lens of your perception, presses the ghost switches of your own biology. The initiate in quantum science does not leave his genetic expression to chance. He enters the workshop of his own biology and becomes a conscious geneticist. His work is not one of manipulation, but of communication. The first practice, the emotional signature of a new destiny. The master geneticist knows that the most powerful signal he can send to his epigenome is not a thought, but an elevated emotion. As we learned, the habit of being oneself is based on thoughts that lead to feelings, which in turn lead to the same thoughts. This loop, when it is one of suffering or limitation, produces a chemistry of stress that orders the epigenome to activate survival genes. To break this cycle and write a new genetic story, we must do something radical. We must generate an elevated emotion before the event that justifies it has occurred. We must feel gratitude before receiving the gift. We must feel wholeness before healing manifests. This is the art of combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion. The clear intention is the what? It's the blueprint you give your brain. The elevated emotion is the energetic why. It's the magnetic field that charges that blueprint and gives it the power to attract its corresponding reality. The E initiates practice is a meditation of creation. It is not a supplication. It is an act of programming. The master sits in silence. First he defines his intention, his desired future, with crystalline clarity. And then, instead of asking or desiring, he asks the alchemical question, how would I feel if this were already real? And he begins to deliberately cultivate one of the elevated emotions, gratitude, love, joy, appreciation. He uses his heart as a generator, breathing through its center, and allowing the emotion to grow until it becomes overwhelming. He is literally bathing his body in the chemistry of his new future. He is sending a new signal, a new coherent electromagnetic signature, to his epigenetic librarian. He is telling it in the language that cells understand. The old story is over. The environment has changed. It is safe to activate the genes of repair, regeneration, and abundance. The second practice, mental rehearsal as genetic programming. The master does not just feel the new future. He rehearses it. As we saw in the previous chapter, mental rehearsal rewires the brain. But its power goes beyond that. By mentally rehearsing the actions and experiences of your future self, you are creating the biochemical environment that will signal your genes to begin expressing themselves in new ways to support that new self. Imagine a person who wants to overcome social anxiety. His old personality is programmed for fear. His practice is rehearsal. Every day in his meditation, he visualizes himself in a social situation. But instead of rehearsing fear, he rehearses confidence. He sees himself walking with a straight back, smiling, initiating conversations with ease. He feels the calm in his body, the coherence in his heart. At first, this is an act of will. But with repetition, the brain begins to accept it as a real experience. It stops releasing cortisol in anticipation of a social event and begins to release the chemistry of calm. This new chemical environment is the signal for the epigenome. The books of stress genes are returned to the shelf, and the books of calm and social connection genes are brought to light and begin to be read. You are not waiting to feel secure to act. You are rehearsing the state of security, so that your genes build a body and a brain that are secure by nature. Your DNA is not your destiny. It is your potential. You are the author who chooses which chapters of your biological book will be read. You are the director who decides which scenes of your genetic movie will be illuminated. Epigenetics is the science of sovereignty. It is the definitive proof that consciousness is not an epiphenomenon of matter, but the force that directs it, the one that whispers to the ghost in the machine and gives it its commands. Chapter 4. The Field of All Possibilities. Welcome to the Field of All Possibilities. Beyond the veil of the senses, the illusion of empty space, our five senses present us with a deceptive reality. They show us a world of solid objects, separated by empty space. We see a chair, a table, another person, and the space between them seems like nothingness. This is the biggest illusion that keeps us trapped in a limited view of reality. The truth that quantum physics has revealed is that empty space does not exist. The space we perceive as nothing is, in reality, an ocean of unimaginable density and activity. It is a vibrant field of energy and information, a nexus of interconnection that unites everything. Remember that matter itself is 99.9999% empty space. Solidity is a perceptual illusion. What we call matter is nothing more than a vortex of energy, an excitation, a wave vibrating in this underlying field. The field is not in the universe. The field is the universe, and we, with our bodies and our thoughts, are not separate from it. We are an intrinsic part of it. You are not a person looking at the quantum field. You are the quantum field, aware of itself. The anatomy of the quantum field. To be able to interact with this field consciously, we must first understand its nature. The quantum field has four fundamental properties. It is an ocean of energy and vibration. The field is not static. It is an ocean of energy in constant motion, vibrating in an infinite spectrum of frequencies. Everything in the universe, from the light of a star to the structure of a crystal, from the sound of a laugh to the thought of a fear, is simply a vibration, a frequency in this field. There are no things, only frequencies. It is a field of intelligent information. This field is not random, chaotic energy. It is information. It contains the blueprint, the software for all of creation. In mystical traditions, this was called the Akasha, or the Akashic Records, an ethereal library that contained the knowledge of everything that has been, is, and will be. Modern physics calls it the zero-point field, or the unified field. The holographic principle, a cutting-edge theory, suggests that all the information of the universe is encoded in every one of its points. This means that you, as a focal point of consciousness within that field, have inherent access to all the information of the universe. You don't have to learn anything. You have to remember. Alduit is a network of instant interconnection, non-locality. The strangest and most revealing property of the quantum field is its non-locality. This is demonstrated through the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. When two particles have been connected, they remain mysteriously linked, regardless of the distance that separates them. What happens to one instantly affects the other, faster than the speed of light. What does this mean? It means that on a fundamental level, separation is an illusion. Distance is a construct of our senses. On the plane of the quantum field, everything is intimately and instantly interconnected. There is no here and there is only here. Where all possibilities already exist as potential. Finally, and this is crucial for our work, in the quantum field, reality exists in a state of superposition. This means that every possible reality, every possible future, coexists simultaneously as a probability wave. The version of you that is healthy and the one that is sick. The version of you that is prosperous and the one that is in ruin. The version of you that lives a life of joy and the one that lives in despair. All these versions of you are not fantasies. They are real electromagnetic potentialities that exist as probability waves in the quantum field right now. Creation, therefore, is not the act of making something new from nothing. It is the act of selecting a possibility that already exists, and this is where your power as an observer comes into play. Your consciousness, as we saw with the double-slit experiment, is the force that collapses the probability wave into the particle of experience. Your focused attention, charged with the emotion of your intention, is the act of choosing one of those infinite potential realities and commanding it to manifest in your space-time. We have understood the astonishing nature of this invisible field that surrounds us and makes us up. It is an ocean of energy, a library of information, a network of interconnection where all realities exist as a latent promise. We have understood the what, but what is our relationship with this field? How do we interact with it? How do we go from being a simple product of the field to becoming its conscious directors? The initiate in quantum science knows that his work is not to do anything on the outside. His work is to become a coherent broadcasting antenna. He knows that the field does not respond to weak, contradictory, or chaotic signals. It responds to a clear, powerful, and orderly electromagnetic signature. The first practice, the transmission of coherence. This is the central practice of the quantum creator. It is the act of combining a clear intention, the brain's electrical signal with an elevated emotion, the heart's magnetic signal, to create a coherent electromagnetic signature that corresponds to one of the potentialities that already exist in the field. The master creator does not try to manifest. He sits in meditation and becomes a radio station, the clarity of intention. First, the initiate defines his intention with absolute clarity. It is not a vague desire. It is a specific choice. He chooses a letter from the alphabet of the quantum field, a possibility, and he holds it in the frontal lobe of his brain, the orchestra conductor. He visualizes the scene of his desired future, not as a process, but as an already accomplished fact, the elevation of emotion. Then, and this is the most important part, the initiate asks himself the alchemical question, how would I feel if this were already real? And he begins to deliberately cultivate one of the elevated emotions, gratitude, love, joy, appreciation. He uses his heart as a generator, breathing through its center and allowing the emotion to grow until it becomes overwhelming. The coherent fusion. The master fuses the mental image with the bodily emotion. The image in his mind is the electrical signal. The emotion in his heart is the magnetic signal. Together they create a coherent and powerful electromagnetic signature. He is literally transmitting the blueprint of his new reality to the quantum field. He is tuning his being to the frequency of that reality that already exists. This is not an act of thinking. It is an act of being. You are becoming, on an energetic level, the person who already has what they desire. And when your energy changes, your life changes. The second practice, surrender to the field. Once the signal has been transmitted with perfect coherence, the master performs the most paradoxical and powerful act. He lets go of control. He surrenders to the field. The initiate understands that his conscious mind, with its linear logic, is a tool that is too limited to be able to orchestrate the infinite complexity of manifestation. Trying to control the how and the when is like a single drop of water, trying to direct the ocean's tide. Surrender is not passivity. It is the supreme act of faith. It is the transfer of the task from the mid-level manager, the conscious mind, to the CEO of infinite intelligence, the subconscious mind, and the quantum field. The practice is that of conscious release. After his intention ritual, the master visualizes his desire as a sphere of bright light. And then, with an exhalation, he lets it go. He hands it over to the universe with absolute confidence, saying inwardly, "It is done. I trust the process. I'm open to receiving this or something better, in the most elevated way for the good of all. By letting go of the anxious need to control the outcome, he dissolves resistance. He creates a void that the intelligence of the universe rushes to fill, often in ways much more miraculous and elegant than his small mind could have conceived. The how ceases to be your concern. Your only concern is to maintain the who, the person who already lives in the emotion of their wish fulfilled. You are no longer a solid object in a universe of solid objects. You are a vibrant field of consciousness in an infinite ocean of potential. Your clear intention is the electrical signal. Your elevated emotion is the magnetic signal. And together, they are the signature that gives a new command to the field. Chapter 5. Heart-Brain Coherence. We have lived under the tyranny of a belief that the brain, the logical mind, was the king of the castle. We believed that our consciousness resided exclusively in our head. But the new science in building a bridge to ancestral wisdom reveals a deeper truth. The true director of the orchestra of our biology and our reality is not the brain. It is the heart, the hidden brain in your chest. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a neurobiological fact. The field of neurocardiology has discovered that the human heart possesses its own complex intrinsic nervous system, a neural network so sophisticated, composed of more than 40,000 neurons, that it has been rightfully nicknamed the little brain of the heart. This cardiac brain is not a simple relay station. It can feel, process information, learn, and remember independently of the cranial brain. In fact, the communication between the heart and the brain is a two-way superhighway, but the traffic is overwhelmingly denser in one direction. The heart sends exponentially more signals to the head brain than it receives from it. Your heart is not a simple blood pump. It is an information processing center of astonishing intelligence. But its intelligence is not logical or verbal. Its intelligence is emotional and energetic. The heart field, the ultimate transmission, the heart's true power is revealed when we examine its energetic signature. The HeartMath Institute, a pioneer in cardiac intelligence research, has scientifically demonstrated that the heart generates the most potent and extensive electromagnetic field in the body. It is approximately 60 times greater in electrical amplitude and more than 5,000 times stronger in magnetic power than the field generated by the brain. This field is not confined within your body. It radiates from your heart in all directions, forming a toroidal energy field that extends several meters around you. You are not simply inside your body, you are inhabiting an energy field that you yourself generate. And the source of that field is your heart. This is your true energetic signature, your personal transmission to the quantum field. It is the science behind the mystical concept of the aura, and the information that this signal transmits, the message you send to the universe every instant, is determined by the quality of your emotions, coherence versus incoherence, the signal of creation and the signal of survival. The heart, like an orchestra conductor, can lead two types of symphonies, one of chaos or one of harmony. Incoherence, the survival signal. When we experience contraction emotions, such as stress, frustration, anger, fear, our heart rhythm becomes erratic, irregular and chaotic. If we were to see it on a graph, it would look like a series of irregular, jagged peaks. The electromagnetic field we emit is incoherent. It is like a radio station broadcasting pure static, a noisy and disordered signal. This is the survival signal. It tells every cell in our body there is a threat. We are in danger. Divert energy from repair and long-term growth and prepare to fight or flee. This incoherent signal is also transmitted to the quantum field, and as it is an energy of separation, chaos and lack, it can only attract realities that correspond to that same frequency. Coherence, the creation signal. When, on the other hand, we experience elevated, expansive emotions, such as appreciation, gratitude, compassion, love, our heart rhythm becomes smooth, ordered and harmonious like a perfect sine wave. The electromagnetic field we emit is coherent. It is a clear, powerful, and perfectly tuned radio signal. This is the creation signal. It tells every cell in our body the environment is safe. We are in a state of wholeness. It is time to grow, to repair, to create. And this coherent signal, being an energy of wholeness, order, and abundance, is what resonates with the highest potentialities of the quantum field and attracts them into our experience. The heart as director of the brain, and here we come to the final inversion of the hierarchy. The brain does not tell the heart how to feel. It is the heart that tells the brain how to think. When the heart enters a state of coherence, its powerful and rhythmic electromagnetic signal begins to pull other systems into its same cadence, in a physical process called entrainment. And the first system that synchronizes is the brain. A coherent heart produces a coherent brain. Brain activity shifts from high-frequency beta waves, associated with stress and alertness, to slower, more ordered alpha waves, associated with calm, creativity, and intuition. That's why you can't think your way to peace. Thought is the effect. You must feel your way to peace. The heart is the one that directs. The brain is the one that obeys. When you change your heart's signal, your brain has no choice but to follow its leadership. We have discovered that the heart is the true son of our system, the conductor of our biological orchestra, and the transmitter of the signal that creates our reality. We have understood the difference between the chaotic signal of survival and the coherent signal of creation. The question that defines the quantum creator is, how do you generate coherence at will? The initiate in the science of transformation does not leave his state of being to chance. He becomes an engineer of his own electromagnetic field. He enters the workshop of his heart and practices three fundamental arts. The first practice, the breath as a bridge to the heart. The master knows that he cannot command his heart with the force of logic. But he has discovered the bridge, the remote control that connects his conscious mind with his autonomic nervous system, the breath. Breathing is the fastest and most direct tool to move from incoherence to coherence. The initiate does not breathe automatically. He breathes with intention. His practice is heart-focused breathing, the anchor. The master sits in silence in a dignified but relaxed posture. He closes his eyes, and he brings the attention of his mind, which normally resides in the head, and gently lowers it to the center of his chest, to the physical space that his heart occupies. This simple act of relocating attention already begins to calm the system, the rhythm. Then he begins to breathe a little more slowly and deeply than normal, but without forcing. He imagines with a gentle intention that the air does not enter through his nose but flows directly in and out through his heart. He adopts a balanced rhythm. He inhales for a count of 5 or 6 seconds. He exhales for the same count. This rhythm on its own begins to smooth out the chaotic heart rate waves. The second practice, the evocation of elevated emotion with breathing establishing a coherent rhythm. The master must now infuse that rhythm with the information of creation. He must generate the emotional signature of his desired future. He knows he cannot think his way to gratitude. He must feel it. His practice is deliberate evocation, the catalyst. While maintaining his heart-focused breathing, the initiate becomes an archaeologist of joy. He searches the vast library of his memory for a genuine memory of appreciation, caring, or gratitude. It doesn't have to be a monumental event. It can be the feeling of petting his pet, the memory of a loved one's face, the beauty of a sunset that once left him breathless. The immersion. He does not focus on the story of the memory, but on the sensation. He re-immerses himself in that moment and allows the emotion of gratitude or love to blossom in his chest. He feels that warmth, that expansion, that openness, the sustainability. Once the emotion is alive and present, the master alchemist lets go of the story and holds on only to the pure feeling. He sustains it. He breathes it. He radiates it. He bathes in that elevated frequency. This is not an act of positive thinking. It is an act of biochemical engineering. By sustaining this state, he is ordering his heart to release oxytocin. He is changing his body chemistry, shifting it from that of stress to that of regeneration, and he is emitting a coherent and harmonious signal to every cell in his kingdom. The third practice, the projection of the future in the present, once. The initiate has reached this state of heart-brain coherence. This state of creation, he can now use it to program his future, the fusion. While maintaining the elevated emotion, he brings to his mind the clear intention of his desired future, not as something he wants to get, but as something that already is. The transmission. He fuses the mental image of his future with the emotion of gratitude that he is already feeling in his body. He is literally blessing his future with the energy of his elevated present. He is teaching his body at a cellular level what the future experience feels like. And he is transmitting the exact electromagnetic signature of the reality he chooses to collapse to the quantum field. The surrender. Finally, and this is crucial, after sustaining this fusion for several minutes, the master lets go. He releases the image, releases the intention, and simply rests in the feeling of the elevated emotion. He trusts that the signal has been sent and received. His work is done. Your heart is not a blood pump. It is the sun in the center of your biological solar system. It is the conductor of your biochemical orchestra and the transmitter of the signal that creates your reality. You have learned to stop being a victim of your emotional storms and to become the wise meteorologist of your own being. Chapter 6. Meditation as a quantum journey. Forget everything you think you know about meditation. In the context of quantum creation, meditation is not a relaxation practice. It is not an exercise to empty your mind. It is not a passive escape from life's problems. Meditation, in its highest form, is a technology of consciousness. It is a discipline. It is the tool that the quantum creator uses to perform the most important task of all, to disconnect his consciousness from the three-dimensional reality of the senses in order to connect with the five-dimensional reality of the quantum field. To create a new reality, you must first stop recreating the same old reality, and you recreate your old reality every time you allow your environment, your body, and time to dictate your thoughts and feelings. Quantum meditation is the act of withdrawing your attention from these three major elements that anchor you to your known self: your environment, the people, places, and things that constantly remind you who you are; your body, with its sensations, habits, and memorized emotions; time, the linear flow from a predictable past to a predictable future. When, through meditation, you manage to withdraw your attention from these three elements, your consciousness is freed from the chains of your past identity. You stop being a personality, and you become pure consciousness. And it is from this state of pure potentiality that you can begin to create a new personality and, therefore, a new personal reality, the science of the quantum journey changing your brain waves. This journey inward is not a vague mystical process. It is a measurable neurobiological process. It is the art of changing at will the frequency of your brain waves. Your brain, like a radio station, broadcasts on different frequencies or waves depending on your state of consciousness. Beta waves. This is your normal waking state. When you are in beta, your attention is focused on the external world. You are analyzing, thinking, reacting. In this state, the veil between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind is very thick. You are the personality alpha waves. When you close your eyes and relax, your brain waves begin to slow down, entering alpha. This is the state of light relaxation, of daydreaming. The external world begins to fade. The door to your subconscious mind begins to open. Theta waves. As you deepen your meditation, your brain waves slow down even more, entering the theta state. This is the realm of the subconscious mind. It is the state you are in the twilight of sleep and in dreams themselves. In theta, your analytical mind, your guardian, is asleep. The door to your operating system is completely open. This is the state of hypnosis, of maximum suggestibility. The goal of quantum meditation is to teach you to consciously slow down your brain waves, moving from beta to alpha and then to theta, but staying awake and aware. It is the art of entering your subconscious operating system, while the conscious mind, which normally protects it, is asleep. Silencing the self, the default mode. Network. How is this change in frequency achieved? Through the process of disconnection we have mentioned. Neurologically, what you are doing is quieting the activity of a set of brain networks known as the default mode network, DMN. The DMN is, in essence, the neurological network of your ego or your sense of self. It is a set of areas of the brain that are activated when you are not focused on an external task. And what does this network do? It thinks about you. It reviews your memories, worries about your future, thinks about your problems, your relationships, your identity. It is the voice in your head. Meditation, especially that which focuses on open awareness or on space, has been scientifically shown to drastically reduce the activity of the DMN. When the DMN is silenced, the familiar self, the personality that is defined by the past, dissolves. And in that silence, in that space, you become what Dr. Dispenza calls no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. You become pure consciousness. You have transcended your past. And from that place of infinite potentiality, you can begin to transmit a new signal, to create a new future, without the interference of the old program, the science and intention of quantum meditation. It is not an escape. It is an immersion. It is the deliberate act of disconnecting our consciousness from known reality to be able to connect with the field of all possibilities. We have learned the why. Now let's explore the how. The initiate on the quantum journey does not rush. He prepares the ground. He knows that for the mind to be able to transcend, the body must be calm and safe. The following is a description of the practice, of the ritual that the quantum creator performs to travel beyond space and time. Phase 1. The induction, calming the body vehicle. The traveler begins by sitting in a comfortable posture, with his back straight to stay alert. He closes his eyes, and his first act is to bring his consciousness, which is normally dispersed in the external world, back home, to his body. He begins a body scan process. He brings his attention to his feet, feeling the space they occupy in space. He does not try to change them. He does not judge them. He simply feels them. Then he ascends slowly, feeling the energy and space in his legs, his hips, his abdomen. He feels his heart beating in his chest, like an anchor in the present. He relaxes his shoulders, his neck, his jaw. He feels the space inside his mouth. In doing this, he is withdrawing his energy from the external world and anchoring it in the only place where power resides, the here and now. He is calming the vehicle. Phase 2, the disconnection, becoming pure consciousness. With the body calm, the traveler begins the deliberate disconnection. He withdraws his attention one by one from the anchors that tie him to three-dimensional reality. He becomes no one. With each exhale, he lets go of one of the labels of his identity. He lets go of his name. He lets go of his roles, father, professional, son. He lets go of his personal story, his memories, his failures, and his triumphs. He allows the personality, that construct of the past, to dissolve into space. He becomes no thing. Now he withdraws his attention from his body. He is no longer a body sitting in a chair. He becomes aware of the space that surrounds his body. He feels the vastness of the space in the room. And then he brings his attention to the space inside his body, the space between his cells, the space inside his atoms, and he realizes that he is more space than matter. The feeling of the boundaries of his skin begins to fade. He becomes a consciousness in space. He becomes nowhere. He withdraws his attention from his physical environment. He lets go of the awareness of the room he is in, of the city, of the country. He becomes no time. Finally, he withdraws his attention from time. He lets go of the regrets of the past. He lets go of the anxieties about the future. He anchors himself with absolute totality in what Dr. Dispenza calls the generous present moment. At this point, he has achieved the goal. He has become pure consciousness, a point of singularity. He has transcended the habit of being himself. Phase 3, entering the field. By letting go of his connection to the world of form, the traveler realizes that he does not fall into a void. He emerges into an ocean of energy, information, and frequency, a field of infinite potentiality. He has entered the quantum field. In this state, he is no longer a limited personality trying to get something. He is universal consciousness, with access to all possibilities. Phase 4, creation and tuning. And now, from this place of infinite potentiality, the creator begins to transmit his new signal. Having left behind his old personality, he can now introduce the signal of his new future personality. This is the moment to combine clear intention with an elevated emotion. Intention. The creator brings to the screen of his consciousness the image, the symbol that represents his desired future. He does not analyze it. He simply holds it in the field. Emotion. Then, and this is the most important part, the creator begins to teach his body how that future will feel. He generates from his heart the emotion of his wish already fulfilled. Gratitude, joy, wholeness, freedom. He bathes in that emotion. He feels how his body, which was once addicted to the chemistry of the past, is now flooded with the new and elevated chemistry of the future. He is literally changing his state of being. He is changing his electromagnetic signature, and by holding this new signature in the quantum field, he is doing something miraculous. He is tuning into a new potentiality. He is collapsing a new probability wave. He is becoming a magnet for a new reality. After several minutes of holding this new signature, the Creator lets go. He releases the image, releases the intention, and simply rests again in pure consciousness, trusting that the seed has been planted in the most fertile ground there is. You have completed your first quantum journey. You have learned that meditation is not an escape. It is the gateway to the workshop of creation. It is the sacred discipline through which you stop being a memory of the past and become a vision of the future. Chapter 7. Creating your future in the present. Once you have arrived in this space of infinite possibilities, you must become the architect. You must give the field a blueprint, a new electromagnetic signature for it to materialize. You must perform the most powerful act of creation a human being can conceive. You must begin to create your future in the present. This chapter is the practical workshop of quantum visualization, but we must begin by dismantling the limited concept we have of visualization. It is not a simple act of daydreaming or positive thinking. It is a rigorous process of mental rehearsal. It is a technology of consciousness that allows you to rewire your brain and recondition your body to correspond with a new future reality. The neuroscience of memories of the future. The fundamental principle that makes this possible is a law of neuroscience. Your brain does not clearly distinguish between an experience that is happening in the external world and an experience that you are living with intensity in your inner world. For your brain, both are real. When you mentally rehearse an action or an experience, you are activating and wiring the same neural networks that would activate if you were performing the action physically. You are creating and strengthening the neurological hardware of your future. Let's think about the famous experiments with pianists. One group physically practiced a musical piece on the piano for 2 hours a day. The second group, on the other hand, sat in front of the piano but only imagined playing the same piece without moving a single finger. At the end of the study, brain scans showed that both groups had developed neural connections in their motor cortex of an almost identical strength and complexity. The brain, to learn, did not need the physical experience. It needed the mental experience. This is the power of mental rehearsal. When you visualize your desired future, you're not simply creating a fantasy. You are installing the neurological circuits of that future in your brain. You are literally building the brain of the person you want to be before that person manifests in the world. You are creating a memory of the future, the body as the subconscious mind, reconditioning your biology, but the process does not end in the brain. As we have learned, the body is the subconscious mind. It is the one that has memorized the emotions of your past. To create a new future, it is not enough to have a new thought. You must teach your body on a biochemical level what that future feels like. Here is where the combination of a clear intention from the brain and an elevated emotion from the heart becomes the alchemical tool when, during your mental rehearsal, you not only see the image of your future, but also deliberately generate the feeling, the emotion of your wish already fulfilled, gratitude, joy, freedom, wholeness. You're doing something miraculous. You are changing your state of being. You are flooding your body with a new chemistry, the chemistry of your future. Your body, which was addicted to the chemistry of the past, the cortisol of stress, the adrenaline of fear, now begins to taste a new drug, a much more pleasant drug. And by giving your body day after day a taste of this new chemistry, you begin to recondition it to a new mind. You are teaching your body to emotionally anchor itself in the future. This is the process of breaking the addiction to the old self. You give your body a new drug, the elevated emotion of your future, so that it stops asking for the old familiar drug of your past. The epigenetic signal, instructing your genes, and the process goes even deeper. This new state of being, this new biochemical and electromagnetic signature that you generate during your rehearsal, is the most powerful signal you can send to your genes. As we explored in the chapter on epigenetics, Your genes are like a vast library of potentials, and the signal they receive from the environment is what tells them which books to read. An elevated emotion, felt consistently, is a signal that tells your epigenome. The environment is safe and abundant. It's time to activate the genes of repair, growth, and longevity. By creating your future in the present, you are not just changing your mind and your body. You are literally sending the signals to change your genetic expression. You are becoming the architect of your own biology. We have understood the science of creation. We know that mental rehearsal is not a fantasy. It is an act of neurological, biochemical, and genetic engineering. It is the process of installing the hardware and software of our new future in the present. But how do you design the perfect simulation? What is the exact protocol that the quantum creator uses to ensure that his rehearsal is as realistic and powerful as possible? The Quantum Architect's Workshop, Practices of Mental Rehearsal. We have understood the science of creation. We know that mental rehearsal is not a fantasy. It is an act of neurological, biochemical, and genetic engineering. It is the process of installing the hardware and software of our new future in the present. But how do you design the perfect simulation? What is the exact protocol that the quantum creator uses to ensure that his rehearsal is as realistic and powerful as possible? The initiate in the quantum world does not leave his practice to chance. He enters his inner laboratory with the discipline of a scientist and the passion of an artist. Phase 1. The blueprint, defining the what. The quantum architect does not start visualizing randomly. First, he defines the scene he is going to rehearse with absolute clarity. He knows that the quantum field does not respond to ambiguity. It responds to precision. The scripting practice. The initiate takes his journal and becomes the screenwriter of his future. He chooses a single clear intention, and then he designs a short scene, a symbolic moment that, if it were to happen, would imply that his desire is already an accomplished fact. He doesn't focus on the process but on the end. If his intention is a new and prosperous business, the scene is not the struggle of the first few years. It is the moment he receives the congratulatory email from his biggest client. If his intention is to heal a relationship, the scene is not the difficult argument. It is the moment weeks later when he laughs heartily with that person, feeling an easy and renewed connection. The initiate writes this scene in the present tense in the first person, with as much sensory detail as possible. Phase 2. The rehearsal, the fusion of intention and emotion. This is the heart of the workshop. It is the creation meditation. The master follows a precise protocol, the induction into the field. First, he uses the techniques he already knows to enter the field. He sits in silence. He calms his body through breathing. He disconnects his attention from his environment, his body and time. He becomes pure consciousness, the 0 point, the opening of the heart. Before projecting the image, he opens the generator. He practices heart-brain coherence. He brings his attention to the center of his chest and begins to deliberately generate one of the elevated emotions: gratitude, love, appreciation. He feels that emotion until it becomes overwhelming, until his entire body vibrates with it. He is preparing the fuel for his creation, the projection of the future memory. With an open heart and a calm mind, the master now brings the scene he has scripted to the screen of his consciousness. And he lives it, not as a spectator, but as the protagonist, in the first person. If the scene is receiving that email, he does not see himself in a chair. He sees the computer screen through his own eyes. He sees the bold words, "Congratulations." He hears the sound of his own heart accelerating with joy. He feels the weight of his hands on the keyboard, the final fusion. And while holding this vivid scene, the master does the most important thing. He bathes it in the elevated emotion he has already generated in his heart. He feels the gratitude for the email he is reading. He feels the joy of the news. He is not trying to feel good about something that hasn't happened. He is combining a clear image with a real emotion in the present moment. This fusion of a clear intention with an elevated emotion is the electromagnetic signature that is giving a new command to the quantum field. It is not a request, it is a transmission. Phase 3. The return and the release. After several minutes of this total immersion, the master does not end the meditation abruptly. He performs the final act of release, the anchoring of the feeling, Slowly, he begins to bring his consciousness back to the space of the room, back to his body. But as he does so, he keeps the feeling of his wish fulfilled alive. He does not let go of the emotion. He anchors it in his body, the sovereign surrender. Finally, he opens his eyes, and his last act is one of surrender. He thanks the quantum field, and he completely releases the vision and the need to know how or when it will manifest. His work is done. He has created the blueprint and sent the signal. Now he trusts in a higher intelligence to orchestrate the details. Creating your future in the present is not a fantasy. It is a science. It is the art and science of rehearsing a new life until your brain and body no longer know any other reality, until your new personality has become your natural state. Chapter 8. The Art of Intelligent Surrender. The bank account shows the same number. The doctor's diagnosis has not changed. The empty chair at your table is still empty. Your five senses, like a chorus of detractors, rise up to shout that your imaginary act was nothing more than a fantasy, a brief and sweet self-deception. Welcome to the greatest challenge of the quantum creator. Welcome to the period of emptiness. This is the often uncomfortable time gap between your creation in the inner world and its manifestation in the outer world. It is the trial by fire of your faith. It is the moment when most aspiring creators fail, not because the law doesn't work, but because they don't understand the art of navigating this void. To navigate it, we must master the most subtle and most powerful art of all, the art of intelligent surrender, the battle of the two realities. The moment you open your eyes after your meditation, you find yourself in the middle of a war between two realities, the reality of your inner world, the memory of your future that you have just created, which feels vibrant, real, and full of the emotion of wholeness, the reality of your outer world, the reflection of your past, which presents you with the sensory evidence of your old personality and your old limitations. Your job, in this period of emptiness, is to decide which of these two realities you are going to give your energy, your attention, and your faith to. The untrained mind, addicted to the evidence of the senses, inevitably gives in to the external reality. It sees the bill, feels the pain, hears the criticism, and concludes, "It didn't work. It was just my imagination." And in that instant, the seed it planted with so much care is ripped from the ground. The initiate, on the other hand, understands the neuroscience of what is happening. He knows that this battle is not against the world, but against his own biology, which is programmed to resist change. The neuroscience of doubt and impatience. To win this inner war, we must first understand the tactics of our enemy, which is none other than our own brain and body, trying to keep us safe in the known territory of the past. The predictive brain counterattacks. As we saw in Chapter 2, your brain is a prediction machine. Its main function is to predict the future based on past evidence to keep you safe. When in your meditation, you create an elevated emotion of gratitude and wholeness, you are creating a state that is a massive prediction error for a brain that has been programmed for decades to predict anxiety and scarcity. The brain, upon detecting this new and unknown positive emotion, interprets it as an anomaly, a possible danger, and its immediate response is to try to correct the error. How does it do that? By generating thoughts. How is this going to happen? This is too good to be true. Don't get your hopes up. Remember what happened last time. These thoughts of doubt, analysis, and fear are not yours. They are the automatic attempt of your predictive brain to drag you back to the familiar and predictable emotional reality, to the chemical state of the past, the body's addiction to survival emotions. Your body, as we have learned, has become chemically addicted to the emotions you have practiced for years. If you have lived in a state of chronic stress, your cells have a multitude of receptors for cortisol and adrenaline. They are accustomed to that drug. When through your practice you begin to feel elevated emotions, you are leaving your body in a state of withdrawal. Your cells, not receiving their familiar dose of stress chemistry, send a panic signal to the brain. We need our drug. Produce a worried thought right now so we can feel something familiar. This is the root of the impatience and restlessness we feel in the period of emptiness. It is not a character flaw. It is the withdrawal symptom of a body addicted to the emotions of survival. It is the body trying to sabotage the new mind, the tyranny of the senses. Finally, our five senses are the greatest allies of the old self. They are designed to focus our attention on the three-dimensional reality of matter, space, and time. During the period of emptiness, they are the witnesses for the prosecution, constantly presenting the jury of our mind with irrefutable evidence that our new reality has not yet arrived. Look, they say, the bank account is still the same. Listen, they say your boss is still criticizing you. Feel. They say the pain in your body is still there. This avalanche of sensory data from the past is the ammunition that the predictive brain and the addicted body use to generate more thoughts and feelings of doubt. We have dissected the dragon. We have understood the neurological and biochemical conspiracy that tries to drag us back to our familiar past. Doubt is not a character flaw. It is the cry of a predictive brain that fears the unknown. Impatience is not a weakness. It is the withdrawal symptom of a body addicted to the emotions of survival. Knowing this, how do you win this inner war? How do you navigate the void without being devoured by it? The first practice, the vow of loyalty, faith as a neurological decision. The quantum traveler understands that faith is not a passive hope. It is a decision. It is a vow of loyalty to invisible reality over visible reality. In a neurological context, faith is the conscious and persistent decision to activate and wire the neural networks of the future, even and especially when the senses provide contradictory data. The initiate's practice is Joe Dispenza's mental diet. When a thought of doubt, generated by his predictive brain, arises in his consciousness, this isn't working. The initiate does not fight it. First, he becomes aware of it. He observes it without judgment and mentally labels it. The old program from the past. Then, instead of following that chain of thought, he makes the conscious decision to interrupt it. He often uses a power word like change or release, and immediately after, he redirects his attention and his emotional state back to the vision of his future. He re-evokes the feeling of his wish fulfilled. This is not an act of suppression. It is an act of rewiring. Every time he performs this cycle, become aware, interrupt, and redirect, he is doing two things. He is weakening the old neural connection by not giving it energy, and he is strengthening the new one. It is a repetition in the gym of the mind. The second practice, the art of surrender, trusting the field. The master is not only loyal to his inner vision, he also trusts in the intelligence of the quantum field. He practices intelligent surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It is handing over the how, the when, and the where to a higher intelligence. The practice is one of conscious release. After his creation meditation, the master does not remain obsessed with the outcome. He performs a mental ritual of handover. He imagines his desired future as a beautiful sphere of light, and with an exhalation, he lets it go, handing it over to the quantum field. And he releases with it the need to control the details. Imagine you place a complex order with a 5-star chef, the universal mind. Your job is to be crystal clear in your order, your clear intention, and your elevated emotion. Once the order is placed, a wise diner does not go into the kitchen every 5 minutes to tell the chef how to cut the vegetables or what temperature to set the oven. To do so would be an insult to the chef's mastery and would probably ruin the dish. A wise diner relaxes, trusts the process, and waits with pleasant anticipation. The quantum creator treats the universe with that same respect. He lets go of control, knowing that the infinite intelligence of the field can orchestrate events in a way much more miraculous than his logical mind could ever conceive. The third practice, living from the future, the antidote to impatience. The most powerful way to navigate the period of emptiness is paradoxically to refuse to live in it. The final and most advanced practice of the quantum traveler is to live from his future. Not toward his future, the initiate asks himself throughout his day the question that changes everything. How would the person who has already manifested this reality think, act, and feel? And then he embodies the answer. He doesn't wait to have success to feel secure. He practices the feeling of security so that success can manifest. He doesn't wait to be healed to feel grateful for his body. He practices gratitude for his body so that healing can manifest. He doesn't wait for opportunity to arrive to feel worthy. He practices the feeling of worthiness so that opportunity can manifest. Imagine someone who has done their meditation to manifest a new, ideal job. During the period of emptiness, instead of anxiously checking his email every 5 minutes, an act of lack, he asks himself, how would the person who already knows they have their dream job secured spend their day? He would probably work at his current job with renewed calm and joy, knowing it is temporary. He would treat his colleagues with extra kindness. He would dedicate himself to his hobbies with renewed passion, because he is no longer operating from desperation. This state of non-needy, serene confidence is the most potent electromagnetic signature he can emit. It is the signal that says to the field, the order has already been received, and the universe, which is a mirror, has no choice but to collapse the reality that corresponds to that signal. The period of emptiness is no longer an abyss of terror. It is the sacred womb of creation. It is the stillness where the invisible organizes itself to become visible. By mastering the art of intelligent surrender, you stop being a prisoner of the tyranny of time and the senses. You become the master of space-time, anchored in the certainty of your future, while you gracefully dance in the present moment. Chapter 9. Synchronicity. The universe's feedback, our mechanistic view of the world, has taught us to believe in coincidence. We see events as isolated, random phenomena. If you think of a song and then hear it on the radio, you call it a curious coincidence. If you meet the exact person who can help you with your project, you call it a stroke of luck. The initiate in the quantum world knows that there are no coincidences. The psychiatrist Carl Jung, one of the great explorers of consciousness, defined synchronicity as a principle of a causal connection, that is, two or more events that are connected, not by a linear cause and effect relationship, but by a shared meaning. From a quantum perspective, the explanation is even deeper. Synchronicity is not a simple, meaningful coincidence. It is the tangible evidence that you are beginning to resonate with a new timeline in the quantum field. Imagine that you have been emitting the frequency of scarcity for 20 years. Your reality, by the law of resonance, has been organized to reflect that frequency. Now, through your practice, you begin to emit a new, powerful signal of abundance. The quantum field, which is an obedient mirror, begins to reorganize the energy and information around you to correspond with this new signature. And the first manifestations of this reorganization are not the $1 million in your bank account. They are synchronicities. They are the small echoes, the first ripples that come back to you, confirming that your new transmission is being received. They are the breadcrumbs that the universe leaves on your path to guide you from your old reality to the new one. A synchronicity is not an external magical event. It is the manifestation of your own changing energy, reflected in the mirror of the world. The language of signs, types of synchronicity. The universe speaks to you in many ways. Learning to recognize these patterns is the art of the quantum creator. The synchronicity of information. This is often the first one to appear. You are dealing with a question or a problem, and the answer casually appears in your environment. You open a book at random, and the first sentence you read is the perfect solution to your dilemma. You are in a coffee shop and you happen to overhear a conversation at the next table that contains the exact information you needed. A social media post, a newspaper headline, a billboard. Suddenly a message seems to jump out at you, as if it were written just for you. This is the quantum field responding to your question. By having formulated the question, the cause, you have created an electromagnetic signature that now attracts the answer, the effect, toward you. The synchronicity of the encounter. You think of an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, and at that instant, you receive a message from them. Or even more powerfully, you need an expert in a very specific field for your project. You have no idea how to find them. You release the intention, and the next day, at an event you almost didn't go to, you are introduced to the perfect person. These are not accidents. They are appointments orchestrated by the field. Your new energetic signature is acting as a magnet, attracting the people who vibrate at a complementary frequency and who can help you on your path. The synchronicity of the symbol. This is one of the most personal forms of communication. You start seeing a symbol repeated everywhere. It could be a sequence of numbers, 1111, 444, 777. It could be an animal. You start seeing owls, Butterflies or hawks everywhere in real life, in images, in conversations. It could be a word or a geometric shape. The initiate does not obsess over finding a universal dictionary for the meaning of these symbols. He understands that the meaning is deeply personal. The appearance of a repeated symbol is a way that your own soul, in dialogue with the field, is sending you a message of encouragement, a confirmation. Often, the message is simple: keep going. You are on the right path. We are watching you. The synchronicity of opportunity. As your energy becomes more and more coherent, synchronicities become more tangible. They start to manifest as real opportunities. You receive an unexpected job offer that aligns perfectly with the new career you had been visualizing. The opportunity to invest in a project that deeply resonates with your values appears. The perfect house that meets all your criteria comes on the market the same day you decide to start looking. These are not luck. They are the result of the reorganization of material reality to correspond with the coherence of your energetic field. We have explored the astonishing nature of this invisible field that surrounds us and makes us up. It is an ocean of energy, a library of information, a network of interconnection where all realities exist as a latent promise. We have understood the what, but what is our relationship with this field? How do we interact with it? How do we go from being a simple product of the field to becoming its conscious directors? The initiate in quantum science knows that his work is not to do anything on the outside. His work is to become a coherent broadcasting antenna. He knows that the field does not respond to weak, contradictory, or chaotic signals. It responds to a clear, powerful, and orderly electromagnetic signature. The first practice: cultivating the receptive state. The master knows that a brain in the stress state of high-frequency beta waves is functionally blind to synchronicity. It is too focused on the material world, on problems, on threats, on survival. Its perceptual bandwidth is very narrow. To be able to see the subtle connections of the field, the initiate must learn to slow down his brainwaves, to move into the alpha state, the bridge to the subconscious mind. The practice of micro-meditations. The initiate does not limit his meditation to a morning session. Throughout the day, he practices coherence pauses. Every hour or two, he takes 1 to 3 minutes to close his eyes, breathe through his heart, and generate a feeling of gratitude. This simple act is a neurological reset. It takes him out of beta survival mode and puts him into alpha creation and receptivity mode. In doing so, he opens his perception to the field's signals. The practice of open awareness. In his meditation, in addition to focusing, he also practices open awareness. Instead of concentrating on a single point, he opens his attention to be aware of all the space around him, of all the sounds, of all the sensations, without clinging to any. This state of non-focus is paradoxically the one that allows him to perceive the patterns and connections that a mind focused on a single point would miss. The second practice. The art of interpretation. The master does not look for a universal dictionary of symbols. He knows that the universe speaks to him in a deeply personal language. The same sign can mean different things to two different people. The initiate's practice is not to ask, "What does this symbol mean?" It is to ask, "What does this symbol mean to me? What feeling, what inner knowing, what memory is awakened in me when I see it?" He trusts the first answer that emerges from his intuition, not the later analysis of his logical mind. He knows that the correct interpretation always feels resonant, like the sound of a bell vibrating within his being. The third practice, following the breadcrumbs. Recognizing a sign is the first step. Having the courage to act on it is the second. The initiate understands that every synchronicity is an invitation to action, a breadcrumb on the path to his future. Manifestation rarely occurs as a single grand event. It often unfolds as a cascade of synchronicities that require our conscious participation. Imagine a creator who has set the intention to launch a new, innovative project but does not know where to start. The first sign, one day, while practicing coherence, he feels an intuitive impulse, and at the same time, he sees a synchronicity. The name of a city he doesn't know appears 3 times in different contexts. The first action, trust. Instead of dismissing it as a coincidence, the initiate trusts. he takes a small, inspired action. He looks up that city on the internet. The second sign, he discovers that in that city, in 2 months, a conference on a topic tangentially related to his project is being held. The second action, his logical mind protests, "It's expensive. I don't know anyone there. It's not exactly about my topic." But his intuition, his body compass, gives him an expansive yes. He buys the ticket. The third sign, at the conference, during a coffee break, a conversation next to him catches his attention. He hears a keyword related to his project. The third action. With cultivated courage, he introduces himself. It turns out that this person is one of the few experts in the world on a crucial component that was missing from his project. That connection, born of a cascade of synchronicities and actions of trust, becomes the key that launches his project to success. The quantum creator understands that life is a dance of co-creation. He sends the signal. The universe responds with a breadcrumb. He takes the next step, and the universe shows him the next breadcrumb. Synchronicity is the proof that you are not alone. It is the confirmation that when you change your energy, the entire universe becomes your ally, your co-creative partner, communicating with you every instant through the fabric of reality. Chapter 10. Living in your new destiny, you have journeyed to the heart of the quantum field. You have learned to send a coherent signal from your heart and your brain. You have learned to surrender to the process and to read the silent language of synchronicity. You have arrived at the door of your new destiny, but now you face the ultimate test, the final act of creation. It is not enough to visit your new future in meditation. You must move there permanently. You must live in your new destiny. This is not a chapter about a new technique. It is the culmination of all the previous ones. It is the sacred transition from practice to being, from effort to embodiment. It is the moment when you stop practicing to be happy, prosperous or healthy, and you simply are happy, prosperous, and healthy. From practice to being. The automation of mastery. Imagine the process of learning to drive a car. At first, every action is an act of conscious and often clumsy practice. You have to think about the clutch, the gear shift, the mirror, the steering wheel. Your conscious mind is overloaded. But with repetition, with constant practice, something magical happens. The process becomes automatic. You no longer think about driving. You simply drive. The skill has moved from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. It has become second nature. You have stopped practicing to be a driver. You have become a driver. The creation of your new self follows the exact same process. Meditation and mental rehearsal are your driving lessons. They are the period of conscious practice where, with effort and discipline, you teach your brain and body a new program. The period of emptiness and surrender are your first road practices, where you learn to trust your new skill in the midst of real-world traffic. And the final integration, the theme of this chapter, is the moment you no longer need to think about it. The new state of being has become your default program. You have become your new future. The science of embodiment, rewriting your biology. This process of integration is not a poetic idea. It is a biological event, a measurable transformation that occurs on the 3 levels of your being, your brain, your body, and your genes. The neurological change, pruning and sprouting. As we already know, your brain is plastic. Every time you practice the thoughts and feelings of your new self in your meditation, you are activating and wiring new neural networks. And every time you refuse to react with the old patterns of fear or anger, you are ceasing to use the old networks. Over time, a neurological process called synaptic pruning occurs. The brain, in its infinite efficiency, begins to prune, to dismantle the neural connections that are no longer used, in the same way that a gardener prunes the dead branches from a tree. The architecture of your old self literally dissolves. At the same time, the new neural networks that you have been cultivating, upon receiving a constant flow of energy, begin to sprout, to create thousands of new and rich connections. The final result of this persistence is not just a change in mindset. It is a physical change in the structure of your brain. You have built the neurological hardware of your new destiny. The biochemical change, the new emotional set point. Your body, as we have seen, has become addicted to the chemistry of your old self. But through your constant practice of generating elevated emotions, You have been performing a detoxification and a reconditioning. You have been teaching your cells a new chemical language. Over time, your cells adapt. They begin to reduce the number of receptors for stress hormones and to increase the number of receptors for well-being hormones, such as serotonin and oxytocin. Your emotional set point changes. The state of gratitude and joy ceases to be an exceptional visit and becomes your new biochemical home. And now, it is the old states of fear or anger that begin to feel strange, alien, like an echo of a person you are no longer. The genetic change, the new epigenetic signature. Finally, this new state of being, this new body chemistry sustained over time, becomes the most potent signal for your epigenome. Living permanently in a state of heart-brain coherence, in an atmosphere of elevated emotions, is the clearest command you can give your inner librarian. It is the instruction to activate the genes of creation. Your body, in response to this new and constant signal of safety and wholeness, begins to express a new set of genes. Genes that strengthen your immune system, genes that repair your DNA, genes that reduce inflammation, genes that promote neurogenesis and longevity. You have not just changed your mind, you have changed your body. And you have changed, on a fundamental level, the way your genetic code is expressed in the world. You have literally become a new person. The first practice, the morning installation. The quantum master knows that the first hour of the day is the rudder of his day. He does not hand this moment over to the autopilot of the past. He reclaims it as his sacred time of creation. His morning meditation is no longer just to enter the field, it is to install the personality of his future. The connection. The initiate begins his practice, as we have already learned, calming his body, disconnecting from three-dimensional reality, and entering the state of pure consciousness in the quantum field. The rehearsal. Once in this state of potentiality, he does not just visualize a distant goal. He performs a dress rehearsal of the person he chooses to become that very day. He asks himself the question, what is the most elevated version of myself that I can be today? And then, he mentally rehearses the key scenes of his day from that state. He sees himself in an important meeting, not feeling anxious, but speaking with a sovereign calm and clarity. He sees himself interacting with his family, not from the reactivity of the past, but from the patience and unconditional love of his new self. He sees himself facing a challenge, not with frustration, but with creative curiosity. The embodiment. With each of these scenes, the master does not just see them, he feels them. He generates the elevated emotion of his future self and anchors it in his body. He is literally conditioning his brain and body to be ahead of their time. He is installing the program of his future in the operating system of his present. The second practice, the art of living, as if. The master does not limit his creation to the meditation hour. He carries his future into the present. His practice is to live moment by moment, as if his future were already a reality. This is the discipline of embodiment. It is the act of constantly aligning his choices, his actions, and his reactions with the personality of his future self. In wealth, the initiate asks himself, how would the abundant person I am becoming make this financial decision? And instead of acting out of fear of scarcity, he acts out of the calm of sufficiency. He pays his bills, not with resentment but with gratitude for the service received. In health, he asks himself, what food choice would the healthy and vital person I already am in my future make? And he chooses the food that nourishes his body, not out of discipline, but as an act of self-love that aligns with his new identity. In relationships, he asks himself, how would the person who is loved and secure respond to this situation? And instead of reacting with jealousy or neediness, he responds with confidence, with openness, and with respect. Living as if is not pretending. It is an act of constant remembrance. It is remembering in the midst of the illusion of present reality, the truth of the future reality you have already created in your mind. The third practice, reality verification, overcoming the senses. The master knows that the mirror of the world has a time delay. His final practice is that of unshakable faith in invisible reality over visible reality. When the external world presents him with a circumstance that contradicts his inner vision, bad news, a setback, a physical symptom, The untrained mind panics and falls back into the old personality. The master, on the other hand, has trained his power of observation. He acknowledges the signal. He sees the event not as the truth, but as an echo of the past, as the manifestation of an old energy that is leaving his system. He practices pattern interruption. He does not give it his energy. He does not complain. He does not fall into doubt. Instead, he performs a conscious interruption. He closes his eyes for an instant. He breathes, the re-anchoring, and deliberately he brings to his mind and his body the feeling of his future. He remembers the emotion of his morning meditation. He reconnects with the energetic signature of his new self. This act is a declaration of power. It is telling the universe, I acknowledge this old reality, but I refuse to give it my power. My loyalty is with the future I am creating from within. Living in your new destiny is not a final point. It is the beginning of a life without end. It is the moment you stop being a creation of the past, and you become a cause in the present. You have completed the scientific manual. You have learned to unlearn your limitations and to remember your power. The practice has dissolved into being. The student has become the master. The most powerful drug in the universe is no longer something you seek. It is something you are. The question is no longer how to focus your mind. The question is, what masterpiece will you create now? We have completed the 10 main chapters of our audiobook, Quantum World. The only step that remains is the final conclusion. We have journeyed to the heart of the machine. We have dismantled the habit of being ourselves. We have understood the architecture of our predictive brain, and we have reclaimed our power over our genes through epigenetics. Then we ventured beyond matter. We entered the quantum field and learned to send a coherent signal from our heart and brain. We have mastered the art of meditation, not as an escape, but as a portal to create our future in the present. And finally, we have learned to live in that new destiny until it becomes our reality. The journey was not to acquire a new power, but to awaken to the power that has always resided in you, the power of your consciousness, the power of the observer. The final truth, the scientific secret that unites all this wisdom is this: you are not the program. You are the programmer. You are not the reflection in the quantum mirror. You are the consciousness that chooses what reflection to observe. Your journey does not end with the end of these words. It is now that your life as a conscious creator truly begins. Your practice from this moment on is reduced to a single choice you make every instant: to withdraw your attention from the reality you no longer choose and place it on the reality you do choose. The question is no longer whether change is possible. The question is, what future do you choose to observe today? If this scientific manual for transformation has resonated with you and has awakened the creator within you, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more wisdom that empowers. Like this video as a declaration of your power as a quantum observer. Share this knowledge with someone who is ready to create their own reality. Thank you for your time, for your courage, and for the brave decision to go from being a product of your past to becoming the architect of your future.